Welcome to another episode of V4 Veganism. I am here with Clare Farrow. She is the New York City Grassroots Director of the Humane League. Before we get into the Humane League and all the work that you guys do with outreach, let's talk about Clare and your road to veganism. I kind of always assumed that people, in our generation, we weren't born vegan. Most of us weren't.
That's correct
So
for me, yeah.
So how did you discover it? How did you make your way towards it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I think it was actually a slow process for me. So I went vegan while I was in college, and I think I had quite a few influences that led me to becoming vegan. The first of which was meeting a friend who had interned at Farm Sanctuary the month before I met her. So I had that quick influence, and then in classes I was reading things like The Omnivore's Dilemma and watching documentaries like Food Inc. So I kind of just had it on my mind, and then what really secured it for me was I actually started volunteering pretty regularly at an animal shelter. So for cats and dogs, I started running their volunteer program, and just having all of these thoughts in my mind about animals all the time inspired me to do my own research. So I'm sure many of us have seen videos of cruelty online to farm animals, and the one that absolutely did it for me was of a baby piglet being killed by having his or her back legs picked up and having his or her head slammed into concrete. And as soon as I saw that, I was done and I went vegan.
I think that's, for me it was a baby also. It was a baby cow getting hit over the head. I think that, maybe sometimes we don't we're like, oh, that cow's lived its life, so now we're slaughtering it. But when you see how many babies are actually casualties of this industry, I think that really kind of affects people more than maybe like an adult cow would, which is awful too. But, to see that it's not just animals that have lived their full lives, we're murdering babies as well. So we've really lost our way as a species.
It's really hard to watch.
You said that you were watching videos and reading things in class. Was this curriculum that you had in your classes, or it was just something that you kind of picked up on the side?
Yeah, it was part of curriculum for a class, and I actually don't remember the course anymore, but it was an intro-level course when I was a first year. And each teacher of this first year course gets to pick a topic, and so I imagine mine must have been something like food systems. And so we had been doing a lot of reading material and watching things of that nature. And so
was your teacher vegan?
She was not, and
Interesting.
She's still not that I know of.
Interesting. How did you get involved with the Humane League?
Yeah, so after going vegan in North Carolina, I did not have a lot of vegan community there. So there is a very bustling vegan community in North Carolina now, but not in the area where I was. It was a bit isolated, and so I'm from right outside of Philly, and when I went home for a winter break, I was just looking for a like-minded community. So I actually found the Humane League. They host a gala every winter to celebrate all that they've accomplished every year in that local community. And so I went to this Philadelphia gala, and it was the first time that I'd ever been around that many vegetarians and vegans, and also the first time that I was introduced to this idea that there's more that I can do for animals than just not eat them. So activism was new to me. Volunteering wasn't, but activism was.
Yeah.
So we dove right in.
So the campaign that you're doing right now, you said you've been working on it for a few weeks now, kind of getting it ready to go. And I saw over at Olive Garden that the big thing you're trying to get Olive Garden to do is just change their practices. But we know as vegans, we want people to stop eating it altogether. I guess kind of explain the strategy behind getting them at least to just end the cruelty, but while still serving chicken?
Yeah, it's a great question. So while ideally I would love for every business to go vegan, I know that that's not going to happen overnight, and so I and the Humane League very much believes in this incremental approach to our activism. And so the Humane League is a really utilitarian organization. We have a large focus on getting results for animals. So I know that if I campaigned against Olive Garden and asked them to go vegan, I'd probably lose and I wouldn't positively impact any animals. But we know that if we approach them with these welfare asks, which are doable and impact thousands, if not millions, of chickens in our supply chain every year, then we are reducing a tremendous amount of suffering. And so that's kind of our ideology behind it, and it's something that I've been thinking about.
I'm not going to cry, but I'm sad that we slaughter animals in such a way, and it makes me rethink what I just ate. I had pho, and I had fun with pho, but I don't have any fun right now.
Yeah. So have you ever seen anything like that video before?
Never in my life. And I used to watch a lot of horror gore in the 80s and 90s, and snuff films, and they were disturbing, and that's on that level of disturbance.
Yeah,
I got to go back to work now. I don't even know.
So the reason we showed you that is because of this restaurant right behind us, Olive Garden. That's how they're currently treating the chickens in their supply chain. And so we're out here campaigning against Olive Garden, and we're asking them to change the way they treat chickens to improve their lives. So these are all the issues that you just saw, outlining the fact that these animals are trying to grow so fast that they have heart attacks, their legs break, they're trapped in their own filth, and they're in very crowded pens, and that they're often slaughtered while they're subconscious. And so all of Olive Garden's competitors...
I didn't know.
Yeah. Most people don't. The industry does a very good job of hiding it, but the fact is that Olive Garden can't hide anymore. We've had this campaign going on for quite a few months, and we're asking them to make a policy that changes the way they're treated. Do you have any final comments?
To live a vegetarian life might be the right move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And learn how to grow your own.
If you're interested, I can give you my email, and I can give you some resources.
That'd be great.
We'll
Thank you.
And you said there are already companies that have taken on this more humane approach. Which companies are those?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are quite a few, including Burger King, Subway, Panera, Starbucks, TGI Fridays, Red Robin. The list goes on. So it's certainly doable.
Okay.
Aramark.
Interesting that you say Burger King.
It is.
I wouldn't think that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you have to imagine Burger King probably doesn't serve that much chicken. So asking the same thing of McDonald's is probably going to be tougher than asking that of Burger King. Mm-hmm. So part of our strategy is setting this established standard of all these restaurants have already done this, so you can do it too. Mm-hmm. And so an ask like Burger King, a company who has enough money, has enough power, has enough resources, and doesn't serve that much chicken is a really good start to set that standard.
Mm-hmm. I know Burger King also has a veggie burger, which I'm pretty sure McDonald's doesn't have.
Yeah, I know McDonald's is trying some vegan burgers in other countries, but not in the States. But I actually haven't had Burger King's. Have you?
I have.
Is it good?
No.
Okay.
But it was when I was on tour, so you're on the road, and when you're on the road living like a trucker, there's really not much available. It was either Burger King or Subway.
Oh my god.
And
Taco Bell. Have you had Taco Bell?
But
Oh,
sorry, I'm not
disagreement.
a fan of Taco Bell. I like to call it Taco Hell. So.
That's hilarious. Taco Bell's #1 fan, right here.
Yeah.
I love it.
Funny.
It's so easy on the go. It's so cheap.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we're also going to Capitol Grill. And they have kind of the same policies as Olive Garden?
Yeah, so the Capitol Grill and Olive Garden are owned by the same parent company.
Okay.
It's called Darden. So Darden owns other restaurants as well. They're just not regional to New York. So that includes restaurants like Seasons 52 and a few others that I can't remember off the top of my head.
So you just went inside the Capitol Grill. Who did you speak to?
Yeah, I spoke to their general manager.
What did you have to say to her?
Yeah, so I went in to ask to speak to the general manager to let them know that I'm leading this campaign here in New York City and that this is what's going on. So I outlined our issue and our ask for her. So I said, hey, this is how the chickens in your supply chain are currently treated, and this is what we're hoping of Capitol Grill. And I, in a way, try to empower these local managers to reach out to their upper level execs to pressure them to make these campaigns. So I know that local managers don't like seeing me taking these actions outside of their storefronts. I know that it bothers them and it bothers their customers. And so in a way, I don't want to be out here as much as they don't want to keep seeing these leaflets inside their storefront as we pass them out to every single customer. And so I hope that they use that influence to pass the word along.
So I know for me, doing stuff like that makes me very nervous, makes me sweat and feel like I'm gonna throw up. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm absolutely not nervous. Sure, I'm certainly nervous about it, but part of the fact is that I have this incredible, amazing team behind me. So the Humane League staff has all these prepared materials. So I go in with a physical manager fact sheet, and that's something that I can review ahead of time. And so I can read over that and be prepared and just practice as well. So I practice what I say before I go in, and Yeah, I mean, there's also just the last aspect of I know that I'm right and that I'm in the right, and I truly believe in the work that I'm doing, and so that empowers me to really help take that action if it's going to help animals.
So I guess to back up, the issue is that in these supply chains, chickens are currently raised so that they grow so fast that their legs break and they have heart attacks and they suffer other crippling health deformities. They're crowded in pens so much that they can barely spread their wings, if at all, and they live in their own waste. So they suffer deep ammonia burns on their entire undersides, and they're often slaughtered when they're not conscious. And so it's horrible, and it's things that are an easy fix, relatively speaking. And so what we're asking of these companies is for them to reduce the stocking density, which just means have less birds per pen, so they all have more space. Switching to a breed of bird that grows slower, which just reduces the chances of them having those health deformities. And then using a method of slaughter, it's called controlled atmosphere stunning, and it guarantees that they're unconscious and feel no pain or stress when they end up being slaughtered.
Okay. This is a national campaign. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, the phases of the campaign.
So phase one was sort of a standard campaign model that we hold, which involves a combination of online efforts, corporate efforts, and grassroots efforts. So online we have this network of activists who do things for us, like sign petitions, spam social media accounts, send letters and emails to executives. And then we have this grassroots field. So while I am the New York City Grassroots Director, we also have directors in 11 other cities in the country. And so all these directors are taking action on the ground. So for this campaign, we've done things like leaflet outside of these storefronts with information about this campaign. We've done virtual reality, like we were doing earlier today. We've hosted fairly frequent protests. But Darden has been a little stubborn, and they are not interested in making this change. And so we have adjusted our campaign strategy, and we are now entering phase two. So what we were doing today is called Day Against Darden. It's part of this national campaign, and we have activists across the entire country who are taking actions all day today. So today we are hitting every single one of Darden's locations in the city, which is an Olive Garden and 3 Capitol Grills. We're protesting and doing leafleting in virtual reality and gathering some petition signatures. And it just marks this new phase of this campaign that's going to be much more aggressive, much more hard-hitting, and demanding of this policy.
And are you going to do phase two type activism more than just today?
Yeah, absolutely. So today marks the start of it, and we will continue to do this campaign as long as we need to. We've actually never lost a campaign, so we have a very successful track record.
Okay.
And we intend to keep living that out. So.
And the third protest today, what is that kind of going to look like?
Yeah, so we are using a new protest style today. In the past, we have had protests where each individual is holding a sign that says something like Capitol Grill cruelty or has a picture of the chickens in these supply chains. And tonight we are protesting on Wall Street, and we're protesting at night, and it is now dark. It's very early here. So we've actually got some light up signs for us today. So the signs will say Boycott Capitol Grill, and we are hoping it makes an impact. And so a really fun thing that we can do at this Capitol Grill, it has glass windows. So one thing that we can do is turn our protest to face the restaurant, and we can have our sign showing to all the employees inside, all the consumers, everyone eating at that restaurant. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know we're in the middle of the day, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Thank you for everything that you do. I'm excited to hear that you have not lost a campaign, so we're going to win this one too. And guys at home, make sure to subscribe below. Please check out the Humane League. Please consider getting involved, donating to their cause, and just learning about everything that they do for factory farming, and become informed yourself.